Excited to have you in.
Oh my God, this is exciting. This is like, I think this is the big time. I think this is
You've officially made it.
Well, I seen that it was like the most popular radio show.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to radio in a long time.
Yeah.
Right? I think with the advent of like, music
Just
that.
a lot of...
I mean, the biggest day of my life in prison was when I had music without static. Because you see, if you ever, nobody would ever realize this except if you was in prison. People like this. Trying to get the radio station.
Really?
You know what I mean? But now I had music without static.
It
got me through my last 8 years. It was amazing.
Oh my God.
So when did you get out?
So I got out about 18 months ago.
Oh, so it's recent.
Very recent.
And you were in
very
for
recent.
27 years?
I was sentenced to 35 years in 1996.
I can't even imagine.
Think of all the stuff
when
that he's missed.
That's what I'm saying.
So, are we on?
Yeah. We're recording.
We're recording.
Yeah, we're in. We just get right to it.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is for me, right, is that, everybody has, so I wasn't under a rock, right? I still was watching TV. I still had visitors. I still had contact, on the telephone.
Yeah.
We had email after a little while, probably about like 15 years ago, they started with email. So I knew all of the change that was happening because, I mean, the only thing that's constant is change, right?
Right.
So I seen all that stuff happen. So, and my friends were like breaks to me for like the worst. They would say, you can't believe it out here. So when I did get out, I was expecting like more of an extreme change because people had talked about it so much.
Yeah.
And what I say all the time is we always get caught in this moment. Like when I became who I was, consciousness, right? Like 13 years old, I was like, I'm Johnny Bott. I'm from East Boston. This is my neighborhood. This is the way it always was. This is the way it's always going to be. But like in our consciousness, we get caught for that 1 second in time and we think it's always going to be static. But it's always changing, So I had become adaptable to change, especially in the environment that I was in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I think that's kind of something that I kind of worked on as I began to really get educated. So when I began to get educated, I began to, when I was the type of kid that when I was on the street, I was just... Actually, in the back of my mind, I was just scared to learn. I was scared of education because I didn't think I could do it, especially math, right? So when they talk about math anxiety, that's like real for me.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Right. So, thank you for validating that because I really had that. And about educating myself was tough, especially in high school, right? Because especially as we are as human beings, we're like adolescents, we're just the most dramatic hormonal time of your life. You're like, So, but as I went to prison, because the craziest thing in the whole world, I went to prison, the smartest guy on planet Earth. It's amazing. I was the smartest guy on Earth. But when I started to read and I started to educate myself, I realized how ignorant I really was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but that's the thing that I did in prison is I learned. So, but I always tell people this, and, the craziest thing is like people that own companies ask me to speak to their employees.
Yeah.
So that's the craziest thing that's happened to me. It's very humbling. But what I always say is that, when they always say about education, it sounds so cliche, like, oh, educate people, and it sounds like, yeah, everybody says that. But why? Because for me, when I began to learn, I began to acquire self-worth, right? In a whole different, sphere of being for me, because I came from being like a tough guy and I wanted to prove that to everybody else. And I think I did that to everybody else, but I didn't prove it to myself.
Yeah.
So there was still a void there, right? And when I began to educate myself and I got like my first A, I remember got my first A in trigonometry. I was in a cell by myself.
Oh my God.
And I cried. I remember crying, vividly remember it, saying I can't believe this.
Were you going to in-person classes?
It's a great question, right? Because now I'm in a United States penitentiary at the time, the highest security level you can get in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So what they had was a program for the incarcerated. You still had to pay for it, but I've had, throughout my whole life, I had amazing support from people.
Yeah.
And I had people, especially guys that were my friends, on the street, were paying for my college education, and nobody ever said no to me.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I began to learn, I began to, like I say, realize how ignorant I was, but I realized I had the capacity to learn. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, because if you can learn and you can have self-worth, what that becomes dreaming big. I could never dream big. I could only dream big, like, if how much money I could rob, like, from people, or how much, how much I could get off, like, drugs on the street, like, So it's such a shallow way of living and a shallow way of thinking.
Right.
But education, I think, that's why I always say that's the la clave del éxito. That's what I say all the time. It's the key to success.
It's so weird. I'm sorry, Pebs. I was going to say with education, though, because I've talked to you about this, that somebody long time ago was like, this is how we're going to teach kids to learn, whether it's math, English, or whatever. But everybody, if you think about it, learns in their own different way. And math is a perfect example. If I gave you some sort of math multiplication or whatever to do right now in your head, the four of us, I guarantee, are going to we'll come up with the answer, but we're all doing it in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, like, for me, for school, I got through school, but not because I was super smart or intelligent. I got through school because I don't remember at what point, but at one point I learned the pattern. And the pattern was, all I got to do is remember all the crap they're teaching me this week. And at the end of the week or the end of next week, regurgitate it all when they give me a test. Then I can forget it and just wash, rinse, and repeat. And that's how I got through school. So I never really had to, like, go and study or anything like that. I was just like, this is the pattern,
right.
But that's not how I learn. I like learning by watching, by doing, by more handsy, by somebody showing me. As an adult, I learned that.
Right.
So not like when I go to learn stuff, I try and learn in that way.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that, right? We have curriculum, right?
Yeah.
We have a rubric of the way to do something, right? So they always say, like, a way to memorize something, like a mnemonic, right? So those are educational devices that we use, right? But, I mean, for me as an adult, I became accustomed to learning in my own way, which was valuable, not as somebody taught me. Because, like, the greatest achievement of my life, the greatest thing I've ever done is I taught myself Spanish, and I speak it fluently.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but, and I mean, and that sounds like, oh, that's amazing. I can't believe you speak Spanish. But, I'm the type of person that looks at it like, I know a guy that speaks 5 languages.
Right.
That's
Right,
amazing
right.
to me.
Yeah.
They're like, you're gonna learn Italian next, and I'm like, I'm working on Spanish still. I want to be able to, I want to be able to, be a professor at Spanish. But, and another thing about that is Spanish is accessible, right?
Yeah.
So for people that say, like, oh my God, there's so many Spanish people in here, and like, I use that to my advantage.
Yeah.
See, because I mean, I've turned from living an antisocial life to living a pro-social life. So that's what I live right now, is a pro-social life. And I try to use all the, the resources at my disposal, not, exploiting anybody, but, using to my advantage. I could teach you something, you could teach me something. But Italian wasn't accessible. Spanish is on the radio.
Yeah.
I can watch novellas. I can watch the news on TV.
Yeah.
I can ask the person next to me, why am I having a problem saying this? What does this mean? Why does it mean that? And, so...
He's learning Spanish. I'm trying to learn Korean.
Wow. Listen, that's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Learning another language is so hard, but I think it's so good for your brain.
Go to jail.
It really is.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know, like, when you have this in your hand, I don't know how you could do anything else but this, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, I'm a cellular telephone. I've had a phone for like a year and a half, and it's like glued to my
God,
hand.
that's so crazy.
But I had, like, so I've always used, my greatest liabilities and turned them into my greatest assets. So I had time. And I had times where I could go and be somewhere in a library for like 4 or 5 hours. I could ask questions. I could set aside time to watch novellas. So I used that to my advantage. And I think, you're like, wow, 27 years in prison. That's crazy. But, I always say, like, my Instagram page, I say, the art of rising above any situation. So now the situation that I was in, I try to rise above it, do something for my mind and my body every day, and try to be as strong and as best person I could be, because 99.9% of the time, I never thought I'd make it out.
Right.
But if I did...
That's fantastic, man.
Well, I was going to ask about education because, as you're learning and you realize that it was something that was accessible to you and that you could do, what were you drawn to learning? You know what I mean? Like, when you could learn whatever you wanted to, what did you want to learn about?
Right. And, just another great question, right? Because people have so many questions about how do you learn? What do you do? So the thing is, first of all, is I read, now listen to this. I was just about to turn 27 years old, and I read my first complete book in prison. That's sad in a way, right? And I listen, and like me and Melissa's friend Nick Verano, right? Nick always says, and you guys know Nick, right?
Yeah.
So Nick always says, like, Johnny, the only thing about you that's crazy is you had a great family. You had a great upbringing. You had like everything at your disposal. If you wanted to go to college, your parents would have sent you to college, So that was the thing. It was, but I read my first book in prison, and that fascinated me. Like, I always had a dictionary to try to find out what words I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I worked on my vocabulary. That's what I did. And why I did that was, in the back of my mind was, I want to be an effective communicator, because I know from this point on, when I knew my life was, about to be a lot different, I could try to, get my point across for whatever it is, in a legal sense, in a medical sense, right? To the prison administrators, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I worked on that initially, and that was the first part of education for me, was learning the English vocabulary.
What book was it?
So it was Master of the Game by Sidney Sheldon.
Oh, okay.
I'll never forget it.
Wow.
Is that like a self-help book?
So Master of the Game was, no, Sidney Sheldon is just like some noted author. He's been around forever, right? I don't even know if he's still alive now, but the greatest part of that book was this girl that didn't play chess, but she played two chess masters in two different rooms.
Yep.
And whatever move this person made, she mimicked it in the other room and won both
Oh, that's
games.
funny.
That's the one, part of the book that I remember well. But, and that was just, that was what, it's always like the springboard to something else. So I
love that.
So-
the impetus for something else.
Talking about your life in prison and what you were doing as far as education, I want to fast forward to when you got out 18 months ago.
Yeah.
Life for all of us has changed significantly in 27 years, right? What are the things that you discovered getting out of prison that you were like, holy crap, we have this now? We have that now? Like, of the things, what are some of the top things that you had to sort of reacclimate yourself to once getting out? Because you didn't know what it was before going in.
Right. And another great question that interests people. This type of stuff interests people.
Yes.
So to me, it was just a way of life, right? I was just whatever.
Yeah.
So, but for me, the first thing is cash, right? Everything was cash. People talk about like being in a supermarket and seeing so many toothpastes and getting anxiety because there's one toothpaste in jail. You can buy the one toothpaste. You write it down on the piece of paper, they give it to you. But I loved it. I thought it was great. But when I went to pay for stuff, I would always have cash on me because the whole card, like tap, I'm still a little confused with the tap. The insert, I can insert that. Now I can do that. I'm pretty good at that. I'm well versed at that.
Yeah.
But so the thing with the cash, no cash. I went to my first Bruins game. My friends took me to a game.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay with cash.
Right.
I mean, so that whole thing was that was tough, right? But listen, and I don't want to sound like I'm the guy that I do everything right and I'm perfect, but I've had really a seamless integration because I just talked about one guy, Nick, right? Like all my friends, people came, they took care of me. My friend that was a lawyer his whole life became a judge in Massachusetts, welcomed me into his home to live there.
Wow.
So, and I like to think that's a testament to me, right? Yeah. As a person, who I am and, who I was. And listen, I had a chance to, cooperate with authorities and not get a 35-year sentence, but I didn't. And I took the 35-year sentence. And I think a lot of people are intrigued by that and interested in that. And loyalty, as people say these days, is kind of rare. But I'm going to flip the script again. I have all great people in my life. So I don't know. People are jaded. People are like, in this day and age, like people that are my age, they're bitter. I'm not. I'm just grateful to be out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and everybody's like, what if you didn't do jail time? I'm not a guy that works on hypotheticals. I work on here and now.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful to be in the moment.
So when you got out, when you realized you were going to get out, did you, you ever see the movie Shawshank Redemption?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Remember the old guy who was in
So
jail?
institutionalized, he just wanted to be in jail.
Yes. So how old are you?
So I'm 56.
56.
He just killed me.
27.
But anyway,
27, 56.
156.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm
No,
just wondering, you
56.
spent like half of your life basically.
Half of my life in prison.
Yeah, in prison.
Oh my
so
God.
when you found out,
Institutionalized.
yeah. So when you found out you were gonna get out, were you nervous? Were you like, I don't know if I want to do this?
Okay. And another great question, right? But I have a girl from New York University. She is an intern at NBC Dateline. Her complete thesis is on me.
Yeah.
She's done her whole thesis on me. We're filming, we're talking, we're interviewing. Her thesis on me. I said, her name is Talia Scalaro, and she's an amazing person. You know, she's going to be great at what she does because she always is great at what she does. But I said, you have the worst person on planet Earth. I am the worst case study for this. Because, you know, people that get out of prison are like, where am I going to eat tonight?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's better for me to go back to prison. But I have the most amazing people on planet Earth. I have the greatest support system.
You are
had
very
the greatest
lucky.
Support system.
You're lucky.
I am the most fortunate guy on planet Earth. I'm so blessed. But getting back to your point, because people say you're so institutionalized, it's like, hey, you know what? I don't care. There's millionaires. I'm saying, I tell people, like, there's people that own yachts that commit suicide, right? So it's not
100%.
It's not a money thing. It's not an influence thing. It's not, you know, a connections thing. It's like, so you would think a guy with that much time is like, you know what? I don't care what I have out there. I got my routine in here. I know what to do every day.
Yeah.
I've been doing this forever. And just to explain a little bit with another bit of a story. I know you got to slap me to shut me up.
No, keep going. I like it.
Interesting.
So look, but I had a furlough after 21 and a half years in prison. They're impossible to get, but I had to transfer a furlough to go from a low security to a minimum security. So minimum security prisons don't have fences. You could walk off and go home if you want anyway. You know, they'll call the marshals, come and get you, whatever the case may be. Is. So in reality, you don't need an escort. You don't need to be handcuffed and shackled. You're not in a penitentiary. You're not in a high security. So what the new warden that came into Danbury and new case manager said is, we're not going to waste money on you. We're going to give you a bus ticket for $200. You get there, go yourself. So what I did is I was married at the time. I called my wife, come and get me. I had a furlough. After 21 and a half years in prison, they gave me money, bus ticket money, and said, you know, go to Schuylkill. Here's your itinerary. When I walked out that door, out of prison after 21 and a half years, right? When I walked out and got in a taxi, I was going to say shooting the blank with the guy, but I was just talking to the guy, you know, and I give him a nice tip. It was like I was never in prison.
Wow.
So the only time that people are like, you're going to be shell-shocked, wait till you see how fast it is in there. Because listen, for the last 21 and a half years, I was on planes with handcuffs and shackles, a waist chain. This is how I traveled. I just traveled to L.A. on a 6-hour flight. I was grateful to not have handcuffs and shackles. But they were like, it's a million miles an hour. You know, I remember going to a gas station and there was like a TV on the gas pump, and I was like, wow, this is weird. But I went into Dunkin' Donuts, bought a coffee, gave the girl a $20 tip and said, honey, I'm having the best day of my life. I want you to have the best day of your life. And it just was like that. When I got back to prison the next day when I had a report, then I was shell-shocked.
Right.
I'm not the guy, like, you know, I was a criminal. You know, I did things that warranted a large, you know, in a, you know, long prison sentence. But I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy that every day I wanted to be out of prison. Every day I thought about, I got to get out of here. You know, and I fought to get out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think the value in my story is if you fight long enough, I fought for almost 10,000 days.
Damn.
But if you fight long enough, you're going to win one day. You're going to have your day.
Right.
If you don't give up, you'll have your day.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
As far as your life in prison, right? Of going back in there.
Yeah.
And you talked about, we're not getting into what exactly you did, but you did
we
say.
can get into it. And my life is a complete open book.
Well, you did say that you had an opportunity to, let's just say, rat.
To cooperate.
You had an
Everybody
opportunity,
does.
and you didn't.
Right.
And from what I always hear about life in prison is that different inmates are treated differently as far as respect.
Yep.
Did that give you the utmost respect amongst all of your inmates? Like, how were you treated by other inmates?
So
Because of that, I feel like.
I mean, it's a great question, right? Because people that harm women and children, I mean,
Yeah, that's the lowest of the low.
Right.
that's the lowest of the low. People
Right.
that cooperate against people. Because, I mean, listen, if me and you, we have this studio, we have a radio show, and, you know, contractually you do something against me, I mean, we're going to a court, right?
Right.
That's what we do. We're not going to fight it out, right? You know what I'm saying? But if we engage in something that is, you know, a street level thing, me and you are going to do this. I mean, I'm giving you my word. I'm saying I think my worst mistake is I thought everybody was going to be like me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but getting back to like a respect level or, you know, the way you're treated in jail, you know, a lot of people knew who I was before I went to jail. And I think, when I went to jail, when I went to Wyatt Detention Facility where I started, I knew a lot of people. Hey, what's up? Oh, I know. Hey, that guy's in C Block. He's asking for you. Hey, what's up? So I knew a lot of people anyway, right? But at that point in time, nobody knows if somebody's going to cooperate or not. You're in pre-trial. You know what I mean? But you kind of know what's going on. You read the papers. You see, this guy, they just arrested 20 guys in Salem. Those are those guys. But, moving forward, I mean, when I have you talk about paperwork, right? So paperwork is what your case is about, your sentencing transcripts. So when I let people read what I said to the court, I mean, I used to call it pornography for a convict. Right?
Yeah.
Because you read it and you're like, wow, you said that? Oh my God. Because I said to the judge in court, I was like, that I'm here with my mother and father, and they're the most impressive people I've ever met in my whole life. My only regret in the courtroom is that everybody in this courtroom didn't have these people to be their mother and father. They're amazing people, but what a man does when he's older is up to him, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And what I'm about to do is go to federal prison for the rest of my life. And I told the judge that, you sit behind this flag, and I registered to go to the draft, right? When I was 18 years old, to honor the flag, right? And when people come into these courtrooms, but you kind of want them to give information on other people and take the focus off themselves, I won't do that. If I made this correlation, it's in my transcripts, you can read it. I said, Your Honor, if you and I were in a foxhole and the enemy was all around us and they wanted the secrets of the country, I wouldn't give them to them. We'd either die there or leave there together.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, so a federal judge kind of has the obligation to, denounce that kind of behavior because, I mean, I have a job that I don't want crime, whatever. I'm saying, so it's two different sides of the fence. So I understand his point. I'm not mad at anybody for anything they did. I had the best rapport with prison officials. I would see guys that started out as officers make warden, right? Which is
congratulate
a huge step.
them.
They would be going over to the office and be going, hey, Bartolomeo, what's up? How you doing? They would call other wardens, hey, how's Bartolomeo doing?
Wow.
Because I had that rapport with people. I would tell the warden when I get there, you want your floors done? I'll strip them, wax them. I'm the best at doing the floors because that was my therapy. I used to do floors, So, and once I got established as a person that didn't get into trouble because I got into trouble when I first went to prison.
Right.
I did everything but take hostages.
Did you do like find the biggest, ugliest dude and punch him in the face type of thing?
So nothing like that, but I've always, I had, I was the spokesman for all the inmates.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I remember we flooded out a whole unit one night because they took us in our cells 15 minutes early for rec.
Yeah.
And I said, that's it. We're flooding out. We are going to cause the biggest disturbance this place ever seen. And we did.
Oh, my God.
And I got the paperwork. It's hilarious.
Are you a sports fan?
I am a sports fan.
Jesus, you missed the absolute.
Oh, that's a good
all
point.
You got was the Celtics championship.
No, I didn't.
What do you mean? No, you didn't.
It made me a movie star.
Wait, what?
It made me a movie star in prison. That got me through. Listen, I want to thank Tom Brady, right? Listen, I thank Tom Brady because he made me a movie star in prison because I had the best bragging rights of anybody in prison. That came at the best time, the absolute best time. It's when I needed it most.
Yeah.
And my dear friend, one of my childhood friends, who I love to death, who put me on the map in Boston before I even got out of prison, is Jermaine Wiggins.
Yeah.
So that he talks about me. He's on whatever he does his radio show. He talks about me all the time. He gives me a shout out all the time over there. And
did you get to see the games and stuff? And
on TV, of
yeah?
course.
Oh, okay. How's that work? Do you get TV in your cell, or is it like a big?
No, it's a room with a TV. But
yeah,
I was there at 4:30 in the morning, putting my stuff in front of it, getting my stuff ready before I went.
Get out of here! Oh, that's so crazy.
It is. Listen, jail is so territorial. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm saying, the first riot I ever witnessed in prison, I started it. Over a table. But I mean,
over a table?
Oh, listen, I'll tell you a story about what I seen in Leavenworth Penitentiary. The short of it was one of the craziest guys, and people were trying to commandeer a table because they needed a table for their friends.
Yeah.
And my friend sat down and said, hey, listen, you know what? It was with these three guys. He goes, I understand. I would do the same thing. If I needed a table for me and my friends, I would do the same thing you guys are doing. So listen, really, no hard feelings, but I just want you to know before I leave, there's people in this chow hall tonight willing to die for this table. So you guys have a good night. left, and they never sat there again. But it was the most dramatic thing without violence I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't think I'd be able to
Just say
survive
I
in
just
prison.
can't. I can't. I can't.
What, in your opinion, what was the most shocking thing you saw when you were in prison?
Well, I seen a couple of vicious murders. I seen a vicious murder in Leavenworth Penitentiary
God.
where the officers were like, this. So what happened was there's a place called Marion where it's Marion Penitentiary. It's a lockdown penitentiary. It was, now it's a medium, but that's where you would go like for 5 years after you murdered somebody, or ADX, you would go for programs.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of like Islanders, Hawaiians, and Guamanian people. Like they were friends of ours. They used to sit with us. All my dear friends, nicest people in the whole world, but the most dangerous people you ever meet in your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, guys would think, oh yeah, I'm going in that microwave first. They're like, no problem. It's okay. And then they come back and start stabbing people in the neck. Like I was like,
Oh my
what?
God.
So I seen something on the chow hall. I mean, on the rec yard where somebody owed somebody money, but they were just asking, "Hey, you owe us money." You know what I'm saying? And they were just talking to the kid. It was two Mexican kids in a gang. And they went over to the kid and they're like, "Yeah, no, we just kind of want it. You know what I'm saying? You owe us money." So what happened is the kid ended up getting like fresh. Fresh talking to them,
Yeah.
fresh meaning wise and like derogatory things to them. So they both pulled out knives and just stabbed him to death. And after they were stabbing him, I remember because I didn't see it until afterwards. I was walking up the steps into a pavilion. It was Leavenworth Penitentiary where I was there's 5 TVs outside.
Yeah.
And I just heard, I had been in prison for 5-6 years at that time. And I just heard the loudest bang that I just shook, took me off my feet, shook my whole core. It was a shotgun blast. I just haven't heard one in so long, right? And it come out of the tower, and then the first one just threw me into shock, and I just turned the first thing, and then I seen these guys the guys were. This guy was dead, and they were still putting boots to him, and then they kept shooting. But when I said the cops got down on the ground when the tower started shooting. Even they were scared. Everybody was on the ground.
So what are the rules if you're seeing somebody get their ass beat? Is it do you have to you just leave it alone? Is that how the rules
Depends if it's
are?
my friend or not.
Yeah.
If somebody
Okay.
I'm
Oh my
with every
God.
day.
Wow.
Because if I'm with somebody every day, if I'm with you and I'm hanging out with you every day, and people start jumping you and I run, then who am I really as a person?
Right.
Yeah. What if I did somebody's like, oh, you owe me money. You know that I'm a notorious.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't.
No, you know what I used to say? Forget about notorious. A scandalous dope fiend, because there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So what would I do? I mean, if you're my friend, I don't associate with people that do drugs in jail.
Yeah.
Because it's not my thing. I never did it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't do drugs today. I don't drink today. I don't do none of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, it depends on the circumstances, but I'm generally not associated with those people, and that's their own problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it just depends really on the circumstances. If they're from my neighborhood, if they're from my way, if they're Boston guys, Boston got a real good reputation in the federal system. So we try to guard against that, but it's just that the drug problem in prison is crazy too. I'm saying, it's just a lot of people. That's the way they cope, so.
What do you do now? How do you make your money now? You said you speak to companies.
Yeah, so I got this clothing brand right here, 27 Straight.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that 27 Straight, right? 27 STR8. So and I did really good last year. You know what I'm saying? There's a demand for the product, which is another humbling experience, a blessing. I remember my brother Charlie, how the whole thing started was he's an accountant in Saugus. And we have he gave me an office right next to his that, he just gave it to me, And that's where I keep my stuff. But he was like, hey, you know what, John? He goes, when I come home, he was like, I had some shirts up in the office that they made for me for a function, for a party, for a fundraiser.
Yeah.
That kind of never materialized. It was a bad winter, whatever the case may be and he was like, go up there and sign them and sell them. And I'm going to spit my coffee out, I say all the time. Sign them and sell them. Who the hell's going to buy these shirts,
Yeah.
But I did it, and I sold them, and that was kind of, the impetus for the company.
Wow.
That's great.
It is great. It's amazing. I'm a recovery coach as well. I work for Power Recovery in Revere.
Okay.
Matty Powers is the owner of that company. So what happened is I always feel like people have been great with me, right? I mean, even you guys here today, right? I'm saying, what a welcome, right? For a guy, come on, anybody coming back from jail is a pariah, right? Should just be a pariah, treated like one, So I always had the feeling and I know it's important for me. My philosophy today going forward all the time now is my mother's dead, but I try to do something once a day to make my mother proud. So that's my philosophy.
That's
you know
good.
what I'm saying? And I always use the hashtag making my mom proud. I got it on some of my sweatshirts. I always tag it on my videos. You know what I'm saying? So I try to do something at least once a day that my mother will be proud, because you're going to feel good about it. I'm going to feel good about it. It's not going to be negative. Everybody's going to be happy. It's going to be great. So what I did was with this guy, Matty Powers, who owns Power Recovery, I did a commitment, and I shared my story with some of the people in his intensive outpatient program.
Yeah.
And from that, he gave me a scholarship to become a recovery coach.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got that. So I did something because I wanted to do it, and I thought it was great to give back. And look what happens. When you give back, you always receive tenfold.
Hell yeah. I mean, you have a great story for people to, there's probably people who they hit a certain point in life where they're like, this is it. There's no way to climb out from this situation. And hearing your story definitely empowers them,
I was
Listen,
going to ask.
follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Go ahead, give your Instagram handle.
Yeah.
Official_Johnny_Bartolomeo.
Okay.
That's my Instagram page.
You mentioned your mother. I'm curious, like, what's the biggest thing you think you learned from your mother?
Oh, no, I'm saying, I mean.
No. I'm just saying, I know you want to make her proud.
The greatest thing in the whole world. I'm saying, I always say if I listened to my mother, I'd be a movie star in Hollywood now. You know what I'm saying? But I don't even know if that's a good thing. But anyway, I'd be a million times better off because she was always right about everything, right? So, I mean,
Mothers
I guess.
always are.
Right. There's no doubt about it. And it's always too late because you know what? One of these days I'm not going to be here, John. That happens overnight, right? You know what I mean? So I think the best lesson she ever taught me was that, and I always have zero expectations on anything, right? So she always used to say, he who expects nothing is never disappointed, John. You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, she taught me, come on, the hardest job on planet Earth is being a mother, right? So that's for me, I believe that, And I have 2 cats, right? It's 85 cents a can for cat food. And that's daunting for me, you know what I'm saying? But my mother, we had... the bottoms of our shoes were polished and cleaned, you know what I'm saying? So, my meticulousness, my cleanliness, my organizational skills, that all came from my mother.
Oh, that's great.
We used to go camping. She used to polish the trees, we used to say.
What are your cats' names?
I love that.
Killa and Magilla.
I love it. I have 2 cats too, so.
Hey, listen, one is a
Very
Hamas
different
trained
names,
terrorist.
Melissa.
I know.
Butters and
You know what the
toast.
thing is? Because you know what? Everybody I say, what's up, Killa? What are you doing, Killa? It's just, it's a harmless moniker, right? I'm saying, but coming from me, somebody thinks it means something, but it's just.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious. Dude, I could talk to you all day, but you're coming back in on Friday anyway to talk.
Definitely.
Yes.
For the podcast,
Whatever you want,
'cause
I'll be
I
here.
can't wait. This is great. All right, so what was your Instagram again?
It's official _Johnny _ Bartolomeo. The reason why that is like that is I didn't come up with this elaborate name. Somebody that was doing my Instagram page had just had Johnny Bot 038, but so many people had hacked it and asked all of my followers for money, right?
Oh,
people
wow.
gave them money, thousands of dollars. I would never
no.
thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Really?
Yes, and people show me receipts. I thought I sent you $5,000.
Oh my God.
And I would never ever ask anybody for money.
Yeah.
People have given, believe me, people
Yeah.
have given me money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
on the strength, and I've gladly accepted it. And people in the North End will say, well, they said I was in LA for 2 weeks. They said the North End saved so much money they're gonna have another feast. So the person that was doing my page at the time made it into that, so it couldn't get hacked with an elaborate password and everything. So that's why it's so
That's
tough.
crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow. You're almost making me want to go to jail just to see how I could
Listen,
Oh my
I'll
God.
do it. I could listen. I'll give you
Just
the
for a couple
tutorial,
months.
but don't go.
Yeah.
Whatever you do.
As long as I can communicate, Johnny, what do I do now?
Yeah, that's it. I can
Yeah.
put the earpiece in. Contraband is plentiful in prison.
Johnny, there's 3 of them, and I'm in the shower naked.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
Stop it. Oh my God.
You'll be there by yourself anyway. You got privacy now.
Johnny, thank you for coming in, man.
No,
Thank
it's a
you so
pleasure.
much.
Pleasure,
Your story
pleasure.
is fabulous,
Thank you,
really.
thank you,
And I bet, and I was talking to Nick about this. We were like, his life at some point will be made into a movie.
Wow.
100%.
Like
100%.
you have a lot, from what Nick told me, you have a lot of, interesting things that have happened in your life and that people can learn from. So,
No, definitely.
thank you for passing the knowledge and
My life's an
being
open
so
book.
positive too. I mean, really.
Listen, how was I welcome today? How can I be positive?
Yeah.
What could I be? How could I ever be negative with the welcome I've had home? No,
That's great.
It's just a blessing. I'm blessed. That's
great.
the thing is, I fought for 10,000 days and I won one day and I haven't lost yet. So that's the message is just keep fighting every single day. Yeah. Even, you know what the best thing about fighting every day is? You can get punched in the face and get beat up, but the win is just showing up. You already won. You got beat up. You can get beat up every day and still win.
Keep moving forward. That's my favorite phrase.